Good afternoon and welcome. There's a bunch of people here besides Darrell and Stevie Waltrip that I want to introduce from Fox. 25 years ago, Fox Sports was launched with the NFL. Our coordinating director, Artie Kempner, our coordinating producer, Richie Zients, were there, and they have guided this NASCAR ship ever since. Among the first hires, Darrell Waltrip was David Hill's first hire when Fox took on NASCAR. Matt Yoakum has been here for the 19 years, as has Larry McReynolds, who's back in Charlotte, myself, and a lot of the technical crew and cameramen that you see here have all been part of this long journey. In addition to our group, Barry Landis has been here the whole way. He's now our race producer and has been since 2007. And I'll forget a few people, but it's an emotional day for all of us because 30 people in the TV compound that work on this show, plus the talent and those I've introduced, have been here for all 19 years of NASCAR on Fox. And next year, that number is going to be reduced by 1. A funny thing has happened over the last week. There have been a lot of stories written and aired on radio and TV, a lot of them positive. Some not, but that's okay because what's happened in the last 2 days is the legion of fans of DW from the beginning to now have all come forward and all made their well wishes known. And that's been gratifying for all of us to see. It really, really has. And Bristol is the right place to make this announcement because this is Darrell's house. Nobody else has close to 12 wins here. Now, that's a mark that may someday be equaled. Nobody has come close to 7 consecutive wins here. Gary Baker bought this racetrack, and he says, well, I'll be in Victory Lane. I'll get to shake the hands of a lot of famous drivers. He shook one hand in all that time, and there it was.
And he was my neighbor.
7 wins in a row. Ned Jarrett is really the only other Hall of Famer to have a Hall of Fame multi-championship driving career and then transition to a Hall of Fame worthy broadcast career, either one of which would have gotten Ned or Darrell into NASCAR's Hall of Fame. So it's a bittersweet day for all of us, but doing it at Bristol is the right thing. And what I've heard on radio and read in the papers and seen on social media over these last couple of days has been just a wonderful outpouring of support. One person who's shared this entire journey with all of us from the NASCAR side of things is NASCAR's Vice Chairman, Mike Helton.
Thank you, Mike. Hey, Stevie. So yesterday when the word went out, Steve Phelps, on behalf of NASCAR, made the official statement. Couldn't agree with him more. The impact that Darrell Waltrip has had on our industry, on our sport, will be felt for generations to come. I'm thankful to be part of today on a personal note. As a lot of you know, I grew up here in Bristol. Tried to race, but that didn't work out too good, so I was lucky to figure out how to stay in the business one way or another, though. You don't grow up in Bristol and not know about NASCAR. And when you hang out at the local tracks, whether it's in Southwest Virginia, East Tennessee, North Carolina, wherever, there's a lot of talk back then about who was up and coming. And this was in the early 70s, and there was this guy from Kentucky who showed up in Nashville, and Nashville was a pretty famous stop in the Southeast for a lot of series, but particularly for stock car racing, particularly for NASCAR. And the guy, Darrell Waltrip, his name starts showing up. Well, I'm pretty much confined to Bristol. And I remember Darrell's first race up here. It was, okay, well, let's see what he's got. And did okay. Come back, did better. And then just went on a tear. And I couched it that way first to be sure that I laid the groundwork, because the impact it had on me wasn't from how good Bristol did or how good Darrell did or how good the sport did. I was a NASCAR fan. And I was following the routine guys back then, whether, Cale Yarborough and Pearson and Richard Petty and Bobby Allison and Buddy Baker and all of those. So for somebody to show up, and there's a lot of stories, and there will be a lot of stories, and everybody knows the history of Darrell Waltrip. He doesn't just show up quietly. He kind of comes in with a bang, so to speak, and that bang continued for his entire career, including 10 years from now. But from a NASCAR fan's perspective, Darrell made me more of a NASCAR fan than I thought I'd ever would be. And he also, obviously pulled a lot of people into the NASCAR following just because of his style and his personality and his ability, but mainly because of his driving ability and style on the racetrack. And so, Darrell, from that perspective, I want to thank you as an old fan that watched your career start and end on the racetrack and have been with you through it all and still love you. And I know we've had some interesting conversations.
A couple.
With your uniform on, with your car owner's license in your hand, and with your broadcast permit.
With my hard card in my hand.
And your go-kart keys and everything. But it's been a remarkable impact on a lot of people personally, but on our industry in general. And I'm just really, I count my blessings as I get older about those that I've been able to share my career with. But you're right up there among the top, buddy. And and maybe it's because it's that Tennessee thing or Virginia-Tennessee connection, but you're a remarkable person. Stevie, bless your heart. I don't know what you're going to do with him at home all the time. So call every now and then, and somebody will come take him to lunch or something, get him out of your way. But I love you. Thank you for everything you've done, and I'm proud of you.
Thank you, Dad.
Thank you, Mike. Now that I've had a chance to look around the room, Pam Miller has been here since the start as our pit producer and our Xfinity producer. And the Fox PR people are here if you need any help. Eric Arneson, Megan Engelhart. There's Eric in the blue shirt. Megan is taking care of Barry.
There she is.
We're good. Okay. If you need anything afterward. And our booth mate, Jeff Gordon's here, and we'll all be available for one-on-ones afterward. But, well, my friend, especially at Bristol, you are no stranger to controversy. Sometimes I think you embrace it, like when Cale Yarborough nicknamed him Jaws. Darrell took that and ran with it all the way to 3 championships and 84 wins, including 12 here and 7 in a row, and then hopped into the broadcast booth, and it's been a wonderful ride ever since. But I know this day and this season, these thoughts just didn't come about recently. Can you kind of take us through the process?
Sure. Thank you, Mark. Oh, you want? Oh, I have a mic. Oh.
Not that you need one.
No, I like my mic. No, a lot of people have, not a lot of people, some people have thought that this was a spur-of-the-moment decision, something that I decided to do over the last 2 or 3 weeks, and that is so far from the truth. Look, these are my teammates. We have been together for 19 years, a lot of us have. And Mike Joy interviewed me when I won the Daytona 500 in 1989. And I was grabbing Mike, and I don't know how he survived. I said, this is Daytona, and it was. So, but my bosses have been so kind to me. It's touching to me to think that I work for people that care more about me than they do about anything else. 2 years ago, I told my boss, I said, I think I want to retire in 2017. 17, I thought it was a perfect time, perfect number, and that would work out well for me. But then 2017 came along, and I said, bad decision. I might want to rethink that. And then Jeff came along, Jeff Gordon, who's been a great addition to our booth, and Jeff came along, and what if I bail out now and leave Mike Joy with Jeff Gordon and some other guy that's never done TV before? And I didn't feel like that was the right thing to do, so I stayed on a little bit longer. And Look, anybody that's done what I've done, whether it's a driving career or a TV career, you can always look back and say, maybe I should have done something different. Maybe I should have thought about this, or maybe I should have thought about that. But folks, this is my home. For 60 years of my 72, I've been behind the wheel of I was holding on to something. I was holding on to a steering wheel for 30 years. And I let go of that wheel and I grabbed hold of a microphone. And I held on to a microphone for another 19 years. So I've always been holding on to something. And you know who paid the biggest price for me being selfish and my ego and worrying about me? This young lady right here. Stevie has been by my side for 50 years. We got married in 1969, and we went to the race on our honeymoon. But I had a plan. I thought I was going to win. There was a race in Salem, Indiana, and I said, I'll win that race. It pays $1,000. My part's $250, and we're going to spend the weekend at French Lick, Indiana. Iggy Katona had a different idea, and it didn't quite work out that way. But through it all, I can't look. I'm not going to start in 1972. That's the first time I drove a car in the Cup. I walked into the garage in 1972 at Talladega, Alabama. I didn't know diddly squat. I just knew I was a big damn racetrack, one of the biggest I'd ever seen. I had a Mercury that Jake Elder had helped Dick Hutchison Pagan, and Jake Elder had put together for me to drive at Talladega. And I said, man, I'm somebody. I've made it to the big time. I always love what Bubba Watson said. It stuck with me. Did I ever dream about winning 84 races, 3 championships? Did I ever dream about winning the Daytona 500? Did I ever dream about meeting Junior Johnson? Did I ever dream about driving for Junior Johnson? Hell no. But those were things that have come true, and they've happened. So I always tell people, dream big, because it might come true. So dream big, and that's what I did. So I walked in the garage in 1972, and I've been there ever since. I've been to every track, been to every race, but I took to this race. People say, why did you pick the day? Why did you pick Bristol? Someone must have twisted your arm. Someone must have said this is when you got to do it. That's not true. If you walk outside the grandstand over here in turn 4, there's a grandstand. I think it's 43,000 people. I think it's the biggest grandstand, and they haven't reduced it yet, I don't think. So it's one of the biggest grandstands in the sport. Outside that grandstand is a picture of me on the wall. I won 12 races here. This was my sanctuary. I couldn't wait to get here. A lot of guys, I would hear guys complain about this place. I think it was Kyle Petty said they need to plug it up and fill it up with water and call it a fishing hole. And so, but I never felt that way. I love the high banks. I love the speeds of the short track. So this was home to me. It's in Tennessee. Follow me in Tennessee. That was how I felt when I came here. So this is a perfect place for me to tell you that not the rest of this year. I'm going to be, look, it's hard for me to get too upset or too emotional because I got a race to do Sunday. We're going to do 500 laps here on Sunday. And so am I going to worry about what I'm going to do next year? You know when I'll worry about that? When next year gets here. Next February, when all you are in Daytona, headed down for the Daytona 500, and I'm not with you, that's when it'll hit me. But between now and then, we've got races to do. Our last race in June at Sonoma. And maybe when I walk out of the booth at Sonoma, and I look at all these wonderful people that have been there the whole time, and I think about not seeing them anymore, that's when it'll hit me. And that's when it'll hurt. It's like when I had a race team. It wasn't the cars, and it wasn't the sponsors. It was the people. It was the people that made the difference. My team, I missed the camaraderie. I missed team meetings. I missed going to dinner with my buddies and having a beer with my buddies and talking about racing. And that's what this group has been to me. This is my team. Barry Landis in my ear screaming at me about something, or Artie jumping in every now and then with some direction, or Pam or whomever it may be, and the camera guy is up there on the roof trying to get the pictures that I'm talking about that nobody at home sees yet. So I've made a lot of, look, I'm not a journalist. I didn't go to journalism school. I'm not a journalist. I'm a race car driver. I love racing. I love the sport. I love NASCAR. They say you get what you give. Well, I gave a lot, but I got a whole lot more in return. I devoted my time, my energy, my effort, my passion to this sport. And this sport has rewarded me time and time and time again, not just with trophies and the success I've had on the track, but with friends, people that I'll never forget, people that if I'm in trouble, I got every one of them's number, and I could call any one of those people over there and over here and say, hey, I need help, and they'll say, I'll be there. Hang on, I'll be right there. Those are friendships you can't replace. And Mike Helton, I love Mike Helton. I don't know what he's a pretty big wheel in NASCAR, but I never looked at him that way. Mike Helton's always been my friend, my buddy, and he's chewed my butt out many a time, and I needed it. You know that old saying, you don't know what to say, but you keep on talking? I was pretty guilty of that. So a lot of times I got called on the carpet, and I needed it, whether it was Bill Jr. or Mike or whomever it was. But it made me a better person. And when I stand up there on Sunday and do this race, I am in one of those cars. I don't know which one I'll be in yet. Most people think I'd be in Kyle Busch's car, which I love Kyle Busch. I think it's fun to watch. And am I biased? You darn right I am. Everybody in this room is. One way or another, when you write a story, when you tell somebody something, you always have to put your own kind of spin on it, your own personal opinion. And we're all guilty of that. I don't care if you say, no, well, I went to journalism school, I sit on my hands, I don't clap. Well, that's bull crap, because we all do. That's what I've done, that's what I know. I'm a race fan. I love it when the guys put on a show. When they get out on the track and somebody's putting on a show, I'm going to talk about them. I always tell everybody in the garage, it's pretty simple. If you'll do this much, we'll do the rest. But you got to do this much. We can't, well, we're guilty sometimes of making up stuff, but we embellish. We just kind of embellish. It's not like radio where there's bumper to bumper, side by side, door handle to door handle. I don't know if they are or not, because I'm listening on the radio. But when it's on TV, it is what it is. And I love live TV. And these guys will tell you, I don't like to rehearse. I hate rehearsal. I just let it go. I learned that from Ralph Emery doing the Nashville Now show. That was a live TV show. You went on stage, they turned the cameras on. If you made a fool of yourself, guess what? You made a fool of yourself. If you said something you shouldn't, guess what? You had the shoestrings hanging out the corner of your mouth. So I've learned a lot from everybody I've worked for, everybody I've worked with. And there's life lessons. This sport, it's taught me so much, and they're all life lessons. But we just had our first grandchild, Louisa. She's beautiful. She's 14 months old. I wish she was here right now, because she's so much fun. And I had two daughters that grow up at the track, and Stevie homeschooled those girls at the track. And everything we did at the track. Everything we did revolved around racing. We didn't have much of a family life. And both my girls are grown up and married, and now we have our first grandchild. I can't let that happen. I can't let that happen again. I need some quality time. This is quantity time. I get a lot of quantity time because I'm at the track a lot. I need some quality time with her. 50 years of marriage, and our daughters are getting older, and our grandkids are coming along. I'm never going to run from this sport. I'm never going to turn my back on this sport. I love it too much. It meant too much to me. But I do have to let it rest. And that's what today is all about. I wanted to do today because I don't want people hounding me about when am I going to retire, if I'm going to retire, if somebody making you retire, what's going on. If you want to know those kind of things, you need to come and ask me. I can tell you straightforward what's going on. But I've had the best bosses in the world, David Hill was one of my best friends. Eric Shanks right there beside him. All these people, Mike, and it's been a great run. It's been a great run. 30 years in a car and almost 20 years behind a behind a TV camera. It's just, you can't ask for any more. But it's time for me to step aside and let somebody else. It's time to make room for somebody else. They can't make plans for their future if I don't tell them what mine are. And so that's why I wanted to clear the air today. Retiring at the end of this year, not done yet. Got a few races to go. At the end of this year, I'll retire. And somebody else will get up there behind and work with Jeff Gordon and Mike Joy and have as much fun as I had. I could tell you a million reasons why I think today is the right time. But the biggest reason is because I think it's time to make room for someone else. Let somebody else do what I've done all these years. So I've loved every minute of it, and I've learned from every person I ever worked for. Many things I've told you, don't beat yourself. I did that, and I learned the hard way that that's the worst kind of defeat you can have. Hear me now, believe me later. Unintended consequences, things that I harp on all the time. Those are things that everybody in this room needs to take to heart. You get what you give, and the biggest thing I think I learned, and I learned this from, I always told Richard Petty and Pierce and those guys back in the, well, I said, I don't think they respect me. And Richard Petty, with his long index finger, said, boy, respect begets respect. And I had to think about that, and he was right. I remember thinking when I started in this sport, what the hell? What's the big deal with the king? What's the king anyway? Who's the king? And then when it was all over with, and I look back, I know why he's the king now. He was the man and has continued to be. His legacy, if I have one, I wish it was as good as would parallel his. Because Richard Petty has meant a ton to this sport. People talk about him. He's still here. And he's one of my, I don't like to tell him this because they get all mushy and stuff, but he's one of my heroes. And I've appreciated him very much for what he's meant to the sport. So that's all I got for you. I'm retiring at the end of the year, and see what I'm not. Somebody said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "I don't know. I don't have a plan. I'm a day-to-day guy. I got up this morning, it was raining. It quit raining, the sun's shining. That's my kind of day."
We are going to take questions. There'll be a couple of microphones that the PR staff has, and as they're making their way to you, thanks to Billy Malden and to Melanie and Monty from Motor Racing Outreach for being here. Darrell, I know that's a cause that's very dear to you. And as Adam and Vince and Jamie and Regan, all of our newer hires, and Jeff will tell you, we have a three-legged stool. Inform, educate, and entertain. Amen. And I'm just so glad you've had a firm grip on that entertain leg.
Yeah, thank you.
For all these 19 years. Where are the microphones and where are the questions? Mike.
Mike Hembry, Auto Week.
Yeah, Mike.
What's harder, leaving this or leaving driving?
You know, I thought when I retired from driving, I didn't know what, I always thought that was my identity. Those cars, those uniforms, being at the racetrack, being on the racetrack, I always thought that was my identity. That was just my platform. This is the hardest thing. I'm older, so it's harder. This is the hardest thing I've ever had to do. These people, a race team, people come, people go, but a lot of us have been together the whole time I've been here. Familiar faces, familiar voices, coming to you and telling you, I don't think you should have said that, or I think you might want to, think about what you said, or say it in a different way. And those are things that I'll never forget. This is the hardest thing I've ever had to do. I didn't look forward to today by any means, but because I don't have to, because I've still got the rest of this year to go, it doesn't seem quite as bad as that it will be later on. So, but by far and away, TV is, I was a race car driver, but then when I did TV, I thought on fans and fan clubs and fan mail, I thought that would all go away. It didn't. It just increased. So this has been the greatest experience of my life.
Doug?
Darrell, 19 years in the booth now. Is there a driver that reminds you of you, and who is it and why?
Well, yeah, I've seen a lot of guys come and go, in 19 years. Carl Edwards was fun to watch. I thought he was pretty aggressive at times, and Matt Kenseth and Tony Stewart. Tony Stewart is quite a character, but I honestly believe, and people get on me all the time because they think I'm on his payroll or something, or because he drives a Toyota. But Kyle Busch is the most exciting driver I've ever seen drive a stock car. The things I've seen him do. We were at California, and he come through the pack, and he went 3 wide places where there wasn't room but for 2. I saw him do it at Texas this past week. The man puts on a show, and look. Like I told you, I used to say, are you with the show? No, I am the show. Well, he can say, when he's in the race, he is the show. We keep a camera on him. We keep an eye on him because we know he's going to do something that's going to be exciting and fun to watch. So I think Kyle has grown up a lot. I think he's changed a lot, but his driving has not, he hadn't let up. And he's got a lot of wins ahead of him, a lot of wins. But I'm a Kyle Busch fan.
Yep.
DebWilliamsRacingToday.com. It's been a good ride
It
with
has.
both of you. You talked about you had been thinking about this for quite some time, but as it drew closer, did you think about changing your mind again? And if so, why or why not?
Well, you sound like my boss. Because that's what Shanks would ask me. At the end of last year at Sonoma, he came and we talked, and he said, what do you think about next year? And I said, I don't know, boss. That's in June, and it's a long time till February. And so I hope you realize that I don't have to be sitting here today. Nobody told me this is the day you got to do this, or this is the year we want you to do this. They've been so kind to me, and they've left it up to me. You decide. You'll know when the time is right. We don't have to coax you or tell you. You'll know when the time is right. And listen, Deb, you know this. Everybody in this room knows this. The sport's changed. It's changed a ton. And people say, well, he's not relevant anymore. He hadn't driven a car and blah, 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 blah. Big whoop. I've been in the cars. I know what they feel like. I know what it feels like to win a race here. You want to listen to some guy that's never won a race somewhere tell you how to drive a car? I don't think so. So I have the knowledge, I have the experience, and I don't sit at home Monday through Thursday twiddling my thumbs. I talk to crew chiefs, I talk to drivers. I know about the data they have, I know about the technology they have, I know how they do it. I could build a damn car myself if I had to. Tell somebody else, some of these guys in there, to go build a car and see how it runs. I've owned teams, I've promoted races, I've driven cars. I've done everything you can do in this business. And for the most part, I think I've done it pretty well. So nobody shook me and said, "Man, it's time to give it up." It's just that time. I'm 72 years old. I could do this till I'm 90. I do everything I do with passion. I do everything I do to have fun, and I think most of the time people around me have fun. I might have a dud every now and then. I might tell a joke that doesn't go over too good every now and then, but this is what I know. This is what I do best. And I've loved every minute of it, and I think I'm pretty damn good at it, to tell you the truth.
I want to thank Marcus Smith for being here and invite Jerry Caldwell with Bristol Motor Speedway to the podium.
Oh, boy.
Darrell, you,
What are you going to do with that?
well, I was thinking about it over there. I think I need to give this to Stevie so she can use it on you.
Probably so.
On behalf of Bruton and Marcus and all the team here at Bristol Motor Speedway and all of the fans,
Yeah.
we just want to say thank you
Yes, sir.
for everything that you have meant to us at Bristol. I mean, 12 races, 7 in a row. For 3.5 years, there was no one else in victory lane.
Yep.
I'm glad I wasn't promoting races then, because you would have gotten some complaints.
It was pretty boring. I told Jeff Gordon the other day, I said, it must be easy to win 9 races here.
Shots fired. You've got lots of those big trophies, we know that.
Yeah.
And we thought it was only appropriate to present you with one of the swords that we now present in Victory Lane.
Holy smoly. Look at that.
It simply says Bristol Motor Speedway legend Darrell Waltrip, because that's truly what he is. Thank you for all you've done, bud.
Oh, that's nice. How to slice Susan butter?
We have one other thing.
Thank you, Junior.
Again, on behalf of Bruton and Marcus, and another Smith that we know and love, Steve Smith.
Oh, yeah.
It would be our honor if you would be willing to climb into the flag stand and start the Food City 500 for us on Sunday.
Oh, man, I'd love to do that. I'd love to do it. Thank you very much. I thought you were going to say, climb in the car and run the race. Thank you, buddy.
We're going to have a little time for one-on-ones. Jeff will be available, Darrell and Stevie, for one-on-ones until they toss us out here. Thank you all very much for your time and attention.
Thank you, everybody.
Hey, folks, if I could have your attention here, we'll go ahead and continue on with our Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series driver media availabilities. We're joined now by last week's winner at Texas Motor Speedway and the 2019 Daytona 500 champion, Denny Hamlin, driver of the number 11 FedEx Freight Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing. We'll go ahead and open it up to questions. If you raise your hand, we'll get a mic to you. We'll start right here with Kelly and then go to Nate.
Kelly Crandall, Racer.com. Denny, so after last week you said you're very optimistic about where this team could be in 2 months because you guys haven't really hit your potential. So do you have a benchmark of what you would like to be doing or how you'd like to be performing in 2 months? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, I mean, there's we have goals, for the regular season, personal goals that I have for the regular season that kind of can make your playoffs run much easier, much better. It's going to take some work to get there, but ultimately, we're on track for that, and I just feel like, we're definitely going to be better a few months from now than what we are now. I just feel confident in that, knowing that certainly, with a little bit more execution and more learning with me and Chris, we've continued to get better and better every racetrack we've gone to, especially the mile and a half. Our first one was Atlanta, ran well. Just by the end of the race, we just let things kind of slip away with the handling. And those are all learning things. We're learning the package together, and we're really learning each other more and more. And certainly, I feel like we're not even close to the level of relationship that like Kyle and Adam are at, and that's where obviously you want to go with it. So we're miles apart from them as far as that aspect, but we're not miles apart as far as how we're running right now. Well, I mean, there's a certain amount of playoff points that you'd like to have going into the playoffs. A certain amount of wins you'd like to have, things like that. I don't want to throw a bunch of numbers out, but we're getting there.
We're going to go right here to Nate, then Jerry, then Mark.
Nate Ryan, NBC Sports. Denny, in first practice, there were 13 guys who ran sub 15-second laps, with 14.8 being the fastest. Do you think it'll pick up for the pole, and is it about what you expected speed-wise, and do you think it'll be as demanding as everybody's predicting on Sunday?
Well, I hope whatever the pole is, it's like a 14.61. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because we have a harder left side tire. So we came here with a harder tire. So I think that's going to offset a little bit of the extra downforce that we do have. So I'm not really sure. I think that if it picks up, I don't know about it picking up a couple tenths. The only way it picks up a couple tenths is if they really this. I think our qualifying is so reliant on what happens these next hour in Xfinity practice. If they burn the bottom end, the pole will be one on the bottom. If they run the top, the top's going to win it. So it's tough because you have to set up your car so differently based off of those two things, and we already had to get our qualifying changes in, 10 minutes ago. So hopefully we guessed on which side is right when it comes, but if it runs through the middle like this, I don't think anyone will run past that 1460. I didn't think so. Chris asked me as soon as I came in the hauler, do you think they'll run lower than a 60? I just said no. I just think these cars in particular are so reliant on left side grip for handling that it overcomes anytime you harden up the tire. It just really slows us down, and I think that might be the case why you haven't seen really fast speeds.
We'll go here to the left to Jerry and then to Mark.
Jerry Jordan, Kick'emTires.net. Heading into the season, there was a lot of talk about Denny Hamlin's on the hot seat this year. Then you go out and win the Daytona 500. And then you come last week and show the heart to come from 2 penalties and win the race. Where's your status for you, your comfort level in your season and going forward?
Well, who says I'm on a hot seat? Like, what do they know that I don't? Like, that's what I don't understand. Like, y'all don't know my relationship with my sponsor or the team or anything. It's just someone looking to say something. That's about it. So I know that what I'm capable of. I know that I've got a great relationship with the people that I've been partners with now for a really long time. So, I don't know. It's just sometimes you just have off seasons and things just don't happen for whatever reason. And the sport's greatest drivers have had those seasons before, but I never really let my confidence get down in the whole thing. I just have been patient and waiting on it to kind of turn. And I think that Chris has come in with a little bit different philosophy on how we do things, and I think that it's certainly forcing me to change a few things in the way that I do things, and I think that some of those have been a positive thing for me. So I've never once thought that someone could go out there and do a better job that I could in my own car. So we're obviously turning the corner this year. We have a good start. It is still very early, so you can't just say everything's great. Certainly last week was an evidence of that. We won the race, but we had some shortfalls in the middle of that race that we're still trying to work through, and that's why I'm confident that if we can still have those kind of results with those kind of shortfalls, that we're a team that can battle back. And once we do have clean races, we're going to have dominant races, and that's what I really want.
We'll go here to the far right to Mark, then to Lee and Ben.
Mark Garrow, PRN. Denny, just looking ahead to Richmond next week, 3 wins there. Basically, in the last, 5 races, you've almost been an automatic top 5. Confidence level to win there again, and what's it mean to you to be
at what track? I'm sorry.
Richmond. Yeah. And what it means to you to be successful at Richmond.
Yeah, I love the racetrack. It's just because I've watched so many laps around that track. It's just a track that I know what I'm looking for when I get there. Certainly, last year was a little tough in the playoff race, not running well, and that probably was the spiral that ended everything. But yeah, it's just a track that I go there confident in. I know exactly what I need. It doesn't mean I always get it, but when it's right, we can really, really be on at that particular racetrack. It's always rewarded my driving style no matter what. And so when we hit it there, we can really do crazy good things. So like I say, it's literally tied with Martinsville with like my favorite racetrack, simply because it's a track that I believe the driver can really make big differences. Yeah, I was really surprised, and the reason that we were surprised the way we struggled there in the fall was that we went there and tested, and I can tell you, leaving that test, I was not confident at all, and that we were going to run good. I didn't feel it. Our test, it was just one of those tests where it just didn't feel good leaving there, and when we got there for the race, it just wasn't good as well, and so it was tough to take that race because it's one that all the pre-race hype goes to you, and that you're most likely not going to live up to that. So that part stinks. So hopefully, we're with kind of how we're doing this season, this rules package, whatever it might be, it seems like we've gone everywhere and had speed. So I would suspect next week would be no different.
We'll go right up front here to Lee and then Ben.
Lee Spencer, RacingVoice.com. What is it about Gabehart? Because over here.
I don't know where here is.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's all right. What is it about Gabehart? I mean, he seems to be intense. Mike Ford was intense. I mean, you've gone through, a bunch of crew chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
What is it about him that's going to make the difference? Because you haven't been to the championship 4 since 2014, and clearly that's the goal. Because
Right.
to win the championship, you got to get to Homestead.
Yeah, I mean, that's the end goal, right? Because everyone can tell you a championship is their goal, but really their goal is to get in the championship 4 and then let circumstances go from there. They'll try to get as prepared as they can, but you just can't say you're going to win the championship. Heck, and even the 20th race of this season, because it all boils down to one race, and we've seen guys that dominate that race and not even win and finish terrible in the points. So it's you got to get to Homestead, and to do that, you have to run good through the whole regular season, or else you're going to have to win in those last 3 races. So I would say what Chris has brought is just a different way of doing things. I don't know how to explain it without just telling people what he does, but it's just he's really prepared. He gets me ready. Yeah, I mean, I've seen prepared crew chiefs before, and all of my crew chiefs have been very, very prepared. Wheels did a great job preparing, but sometimes just someone that has a different way of doing things adapts better to you or your race team, or maybe we just got our cars faster. I don't know what it is exactly, but certainly when I go into a race weekend, I'm confident that the plan he puts out, I need to go out there and execute that plan. And he does a good job of getting all that stuff together. And so I'd say that's been the biggest thing, is that we're more ready now for things that get thrown our way than what we probably ever have been.
We'll go to the right front here, Denny, to Ben, and we'll finish up with Woody.
Denny, Ben White with the Lexington Dispatch newspaper. I'm a little early here, but I'm doing a feature on Father's Day. I'd like to know how much of an influence your dad had on your racing career, and I want to throw possibly Joe Gibbs into that as well a little bit, just because I know you've been with Joe a long time. So just if you give me some perspective on how they've helped your career.
Well, I mean, I think if you ask any of the drivers, their dad is just like, most of them will say their dad was the driving force behind them being here. It wasn't because it was what my dad wanted to do, it was what I wanted to do. He was just there to support it. And obviously having a regular job at a trailer shop, his means could only take us so far. So, the thing that I am just so in awe of is that the love for his son took him way beyond his financial means. And, if things wouldn't have worked out, we would have been in major financial trouble, just as a family. You can only take out so many mortgages and only default so many times before you have nothing. And so they took major risk and really they took a path to my success that I would never encourage anyone to ever take. Because the risk is just too big. But they took it. They spent every nickel that they had in savings, and said, he's not winning in the junk equipment that he's got, so we have to spend everything in our savings to get him a new race car, new late model car. And that just set off the chain of events. You start and then winning in your own equipment. The bigger owners see that and it was like, wow, we thought he stunk, and actually maybe he's okay. And then they give me an opportunity in their car, and you go out and you win 25 out of 35 races in a year. And it just sets off the chain of events of then you get noticed by some short track scene or, magazines. Next thing you know, the Gibbs family kind of sees it, and people within the Gibbs family that are in short track racing know about you, and it gets you that opportunity at the test. And it really sets off a chain of events that I think that every day of if one thing wouldn't have happened in this whole process, I would just be working at my dad's trailer shop right now, and I was okay with that. I liked going to work there. It's something that I really enjoy doing because I got to do it with my dad. We showed up every day, and I mean, we would raise hell at each other, but we ran a business together, and that was really, really fun for me. So when I got to this level, I would say it kind of split us apart a little bit because, you don't like traveling as much and things like that. So, my biggest hurdle has been keeping that relationship as good as it has, because knowing that he risked it all for me to get here.
Denny, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up there. Thank you, and good luck this
Thank you.
weekend. We're going to continue with our Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series driver availabilities. Joined now by the driver of the #1 Monster Energy Chevrolet for Chip Ganassi Racing, Kurt Busch. Welcome, Kurt. We're going to go ahead and open it up to questions right away. We'll start over here to the left with Jerry Jordan.
Jerry Jordan, kickingthetires.net. Saw you walking in earlier, checking out the VHT on the track. What did you pick up from that, and how was the car when you went out?
Yeah, as far as the spray and then the rubber that they mix in with it, as far as the drivers were told it was going to be about 4 feet wide. I was just measuring it. It was about 7 feet wide. And then it just didn't look as much as normal. And then you saw us all waiting to start practice today because, again, there's the traction compound, but it takes heat to activate it and for it to actually work and to stick. So nobody wanted to go out there and be the first cars to go out. So we needed the Xfinity cars to kind of rub it in, and those guys aren't even going in there right now. So interesting. It's Bristol. Each time we come back here, it's like a whole brand new track.
We're going to go to the right to Woody Kane, then to Mark Garrow.
Woody Kane with MRN. Kurt, wanted to look ahead a week to Richmond with the new package and it being a night race and theoretically a little cooler. How do you think the new package might play out there?
I think at the short tracks, the center of the corner speed is going to be up, and you're going to have more grip on corner exit because of the downforce. And so I'm expecting the way that Martinsville went, that the cars are going to be easier to drive, and they should stay underneath the driver longer. So I expect a pretty good show here on Sunday and then next week at Richmond because of the way the tire drop-off is at Richmond. Whereas the concrete tracks like Bristol and Martinsville, the cars don't drop off as much. So Richmond, I think, is going to be a really good indication of, or a blast to the past, so to speak, of what we wanted this package to be.
We'll go to the far right to Mark Garrow.
Mark Garrow, PRN. Kurt, you've been top 10 5 out of the last 6 races. You guys have the consistency. Are you pleased with that or frustrated that you're just not quite where you probably want to be, even though you're consistently in the top 10?
I'm pleased with it. I think it's been a good start for us teaming up at Ganassi and everybody that was on the one car and the results they had from years prior. I would say that we jumped into another category, and we also know we can go out and grab another category, and that is to get those top 5s. But right now, the Penske guys are really strong, the Gibbs guys are really strong, and SHR might be off just a little bit with the start of the season. And so when you're trying to battle for top 5 spots, and Penske and Gibbs have them on lockdown, that's where we know we need to just work at our own pace, find our own speed, and make both the Ganassi cars better. And we'll find them. We'll find our spots to run really well, and we'll find some weak areas that we still need to fix. But I'm pleasantly surprised and happy with the way the season is starting.
Continue with questions for Kurt. If you raise your hand, we'll get a microphone to you. Let's go right up front here to Lee Spencer.
SpencerRacingVoice.com. Curious, is there any difference at a short track between you running the Ford last year and the Chevrolet this year? Can you tell any differences between the cars? Other than, I mean, you got a new aero package, but I mean, are there any other things that come into play?
I'll learn more in race trim tomorrow with the low-end torque. It seems like the Fords, they qualify well because they run well on the top end. And I think the Chevys run good on the bottom end. And that's just a small indication of what I've felt so far. So the lower the RPM, it seems like the Chevys are a little little different than where the Fords are a little different at the top end of the RPM. So not all that much difference, you know, and at a short track like this, you can throw out the aero balance changes.
We'll continue up here to the right to Ben.
Kirk Ben White, Lexington Dispatch. I was just asking Denny the same question. Can you talk about, this is for a Father's Day piece coming up, can you talk about the influence your dad had on your racing career early on and how important he was to you to maybe help you get here?
Yeah, my dad, Tom, committed so much to Kyle and I's racing career. Mom was there every step of the way as well. And my favorite story is when I was given a go-kart for Christmas around age 7. The go-kart wasn't a toy as I thought it was going to be. It was more of a tool. And he would only let me run it with him, with his supervision, of course, and it would be on Sunday after we watched the Cup race together. If I didn't watch the Cup race with him, then we didn't go play with the go-kart. And so when I would watch the Cup race with him, and then it was go-kart time, and it was more of a tool, and he would teach me the cornering entry, the apex, corner exit. We get the stopwatch out, and then he would take apart the carburetor sometimes, have me put it back together, and so it was more of a tool than it was a toy. And from that beginning, I was only about 2 years into it. I was about 9, and I could run faster lap times than him in that little go-kart because I was lightweight. I was probably 80 pounds, and he's 180. And so that's when I kind of started transitioning into being a bit more serious.
Kurt, thank you very much, and good luck this weekend.
All right, great, thank you.
We'll go ahead and continue our Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series driver media availabilities. We're joined now by the driver of the number 12 PPG Ford for Team Penske, Ryan Blaney. Welcome, Ryan. We're going to go ahead and go straight to questions. If you raise your hand, we'll get a mic to you. And we'll start over here to the left with Jerry Jordan.
Jerry Jordan, KickingTheTires.net. What was the track like? You go out there earlier and think you can pick up anything for qualifying?
Yeah, it was interesting. No one went down in that bottom lane, and it looks like no one still is going down in it. It's just, I was kind of surprised, to be honest with you. I was kind of surprised we didn't go down in there. I hit it once with my left side tires, and it was pretty slick. You just need a lot of cars running on it to get it going. And I thought the Xfinity cars would run down there with them being in race trim and get it rolling, but it looks like they're not. So I'm not sure. I was kind of nervous. I was thinking that, the Xfinity cars and K&N drivers are going to run down in it, and then we're going to have to be in it for qualifying, and I don't know how our car is going to be. No one will because no one's running it yet. But I don't know. You just kind of you just watch practice and kind of see where everyone's running. And, this might be a deal to where they use the middle up and they just go to the top, and then we'll all be at the top of the racetrack. So, it's kind of interesting. Like the first handful of cars don't go down in it, and then everyone just says, all right, we're just run the middle. It's kind of weird how that flows and works, but you never know. It might work down, and we might be in it qualifying. You just have to keep watching, like I said.
We'll go to the far right to Mark.
Mark Arrow, PRN. Ryan, your season to date, 3 top 5s and 4 finishes you'd probably rather forget about. I mean, how do you look at that, and how frustrating has it been?
Yeah, I mean, there's moments you get frustrated at it. You just wish stuff would stop happening. We had that run there of really good finishes, like we finished where we've been running, and which was, I wouldn't say it's relieving, but it was nice to finally actually not have anything go wrong in those races. And then you look at last week leading the race, and part falls off, and we end up blowing up. So yeah, that part's frustrating, and I kind of got taken out of context. I was angry, and like the one story that came out last week was I'm tired of looking at the positives. And the good thing about it is we have really fast cars, so that's always the positive. I kind of meant it as, I'm tired of being in spots with the chance to win, and just dumb luck happens, and it just gets taken all away from you. So that part gets frustrating, but I'm really only frustrated for 10 minutes after the deal happens. You move on, you figure out what you can do to prevent stuff like that happening, and then you focus on the next week, because there's nothing you can do about it. after something like that happens, you just try to make sure it doesn't happen again. So the good thing is we've had speed all year, and it's sometimes it can get frustrating that we haven't won a race yet because we've been, honestly, I think we've had cars good enough to win almost every single one of them, at least have a shot at them. And yeah, you know, more bad things have happened than good, but we just got to stay, as a whole group, as a whole Penske group, we got to stay on top of the, you know, the circle here. We're at the top of our game, and I think our cars are the fastest ones out there. Us and the Gibbs guys seem to be, you know, class of the field, and this all goes full circle. I mean, you'll have slumps, you'll have, you know, good times, and you just try to capitalize on the good times. So.
Is that why it's all the more important to get a W now while you guys clearly have the advantage, because it doesn't always stay that way?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in contention to win all year. Our team is capable of that, but when we have so much speed right now as a whole group, yeah, you want to capitalize on it. I mean, you want to rack them up as much as you can, as quick as you can, when you can. So that part kind of stinks sometimes, but I'll tell you, I'd rather have fast cars and things happening when we're in contention to win races than be running 15th, you know, and wondering, scratching our heads where the speed is at. Yeah, they're both frustrating, but I'd rather be in this position, and you just keep having fast cars and running up front. You hope the problems stop, and you hope you can, you know, figure out a way to try to, you know, pull through at the end of one of these races. So
We're going to go over here to the left to Jacob and then to Woody.
Jacob Seelman, Speed Sport Magazine. Ryan, kind of a follow-up from that last question. Are you feeling the pressure at all, being the only Penske driver that hasn't visited victory lane and locked in the playoffs already this season? Or knowing the speed that you have, do you feel like that win is still coming?
No, I don't feel pressure at all. I mean, yeah, you want to be part of the group, but, I mean, we have the ability to do it. It's just a matter of kind of getting it done, and everybody knows that, you know, my whole team knows, and all the Penske knows that, and really all the competition knows that we've been one of the best cars all year, and yeah, you hate to still have a 0 in that column, even though it's still really early in the year. But no, the pressure thing, man, I used to let get to me a handful of years ago, and then it doesn't help you. So you try to stay pressure free, no matter how, you know, good or bad things are or how things look. So no, there's no pressure just because Brad and Joey have won. You just try to focus on your deal and what you need to do to try to get your team in victory lane, and, you know, help your teammates and team the best you can. But you just try to overlook all that stuff and just focus. So
We'll go over here to the right to Woody.
Ryan, Woody Kane with MRN. Look ahead for us, if you will, the next week at Richmond. A lot of folks say that the new package likes the cooler temperatures better. Theoretically, that should apply at night at Richmond. How do you think it might shake out there?
yeah, I'm curious about that. We'll have to see. You know, it's kind of hard to judge that. It's been hard to really even, you know, we haven't really been to a place like Richmond yet. You know, Phoenix is way different. Here is way different. Martinsville obviously is way different. So Richmond will be kind of the first of its kind with this new package. So I'm not really sure how it's going to race with the cooler temps and being able to move around maybe a little bit more with these cars and things like that. So it's kind of hard to tell right now, but I'm optimistic for it. Richmond hasn't been our best place, and I feel like we're starting to turn around there, so hopefully we can keep it going. But yeah, it's kind of hard to judge right now. It's hard to kind of, for me to give you an answer of how the racing is going to be, but I'm optimistic about everything, and I think this package this year has shown some pretty decent races. I mean, it's obviously you work the bugs out of it and things like that, but yeah, I think Richmond will be a good race. It always puts on a pretty good show there, and the night race there I think is pretty cool under the lights, and it should be a good one.
Additional questions for Ryan? We'll come right up front here to Nate.
Nate Ryan, NBC Sports. Ryan, did you think you guys would be faster here with this package? It looks like I guess you're a little bit faster, being in the 15 second.
Yeah. What did we qualify last year?
I think it was 15-0 or 15-1. Yeah, it looks like you were 14-6.
We were 14-8. Yeah, I feel like some of that. I feel like we'd be a little bit faster if we were on the bottom. I think last year we were on the bottom right away, and I don't know what that was from. It was from the sun being out all day or just cars committing to it right away. I'm not sure, or it might not have rained so much, so there was a little bit more on it. But I was guessing we were going to be running 14.6s, and so I was a couple tenths off. But I felt like we'd be a little bit faster if that stuff on the bottom was good to go. But no, I mean you can feel it. 2 tenths here is a lot. You know, that's a lot faster than what it used to. Is throttle time and how hard you get in the corner compared to last year. But yeah, you knew you were going to be up. You know, I think speed's going to be way up. Like here, Dover is going to be fast, really fast with this package. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, I expect us to be a little bit faster. But just the way it is.
So what Brad said a couple of weeks ago about this being extremely physically demanding, are you still expecting that 500 laps Sunday?
Yeah, this race is always tough. I mean, it's a long race. One of the more physical racetracks that we go to, physical and mentally challenging. But as far as like just holding on for dear life, so much more than we were last year, not really. I don't really expect that to happen. So.
Any final questions for Ryan Blaney? No? Ryan, thanks for coming in and good luck this weekend.
Night.